Welcome to Up to the Minute. I'm Todd Duplantis. Thanks for joining us on this afternoon. It's a Thursday, and we're facing somewhat of a long holiday weekend. I hope you have a good one. We've got a great show lined up for you this afternoon. I want to welcome to the show a person we all know very well here at HCCTV, Stacee Hawkins, who is one of our producers. Welcome to the show, Stacee.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here. And before we get started, I want to personally congratulate Stacee because this has been a big week for you. Why don't you tell everybody what you did this week?
On Tuesday morning, I defended my thesis, successfully defended my thesis. It's the culmination of an entire year's work. Didn't expect to be doing it online, but everything went well. I had a great committee. It was a long process, but a very enjoyable one.
Well, congratulations on that, and congratulations on being awarded that master's degree and everything that comes with it, and the road you're on right now. I want to, but briefly, before we get into the subject matter of today, tell folks a little bit about your history here with Houston Community College, because you've been around for a little while.
I joined the college in May of 2000, as a media videographer at the Stafford campus. Was a media videographer for 8 years, and then achieved what has been a lifelong dream since I was 12 years old of becoming a producer. So no matter what else I do or where I go in my career, HCC will always have a very special place in my heart, because it will be where I fulfilled the dream that I had ever since I was a 12-year-old kid.
Well, you also have, since you started at Stafford, you moved downtown, and you're now based out of 3100 as one of the producers that works with us at HCCTV, and you produce a number of shows, and they're like The Topic that I host, and then you also work with Mary Sitt on Global Outlook, and what are a couple of the others? I know there was one you launched literally as a pilot about a year and a half ago, and it's a hit for veterans.
Oh, yes, Veterans Voice. It's a program we do in cooperation with Easter Seals of Greater Houston with Tim, who is a absolutely wonderful host, getting information about organizations that provide services to our area veterans and their families. And it also provides a way for those of us who have not served to be able to give back by volunteering and supporting those organizations. We also highlight our VMAS, which is our veteran services here at HCC, letting veterans know how they can make the best use of their services here to get their education.
Now, Stacee, since we've been working in this virtual world, we were kind of all thrown into this, but we started making plans for doing things virtually really the week before we left for spring break. And maybe we can talk a little bit about, before we get to your topic today, let's talk a little bit about some of the plans that were set forth before we went back on spring break to get us ready to what we're doing now.
Well, I remember as this crisis started to grow, and we knew that it might have major impact on how we did our work, you emphasized how important it was each evening to go home with the assumption that you wouldn't necessarily be able to come back for a while. So we made sure to back up all of the information that we would need, make sure we had all of our contacts, make sure we had any laptop, any equipment that we would need to take home with us, and start thinking about how we would set up our home offices, how we would kind of organize our lives so that we would be able to continue to bring people vital information about HCC from our homes safely.
And I'm pleased to say that the team has really responded very well, and everyone is in place. And we're now able to continue on with shows like Veterans Voice, which you'll be going back into production with next week. We do The Topic, and a lot of the shows we were doing in a studio, we're now able to continue to deliver those shows remotely.
You know, the great thing about this, there's always a silver lining. Whenever you have to approach a new challenge with coworkers, with partners in the community, you establish additional lines of communication, additional ways of working with each other that you can carry forward. I think each crisis that you meet and you handle, every inventive thing that you come up with just expands what you're able to do. And so I hope we're able to take some ideas that we've had and carry them on when we can go back into the studio.
Now, what you've been doing in addition to producing your shows that you work on regularly is you've taken on a whole new beat here at HCCTV, and you've been able to, you're a travel buff and you're a history buff, and you like to travel with your husband, and you guys go to a lot of museums around the country, and you thought, wow, maybe I can do something with that for little episodes that I could create, virtually family fun programs. So tell me how you are highlighting those with your new segment that you're doing right now called Brainy Break.
Well, the idea for Brainy Break came from just perusing my own Facebook feed. As you mentioned, I do a lot of traveling. Wherever I go into museums, historical sites, and I always add those to my Facebook feed so that when I'm having lunch, I can kind of take a virtual vacation. I noticed that a lot of these organizations were starting to do new things themselves. The first group I noticed it with was zoos and aquariums, because of course they have to have somebody there to help care for the animals. So they started doing these little segments with some of their animals, with behind the scenes. Then I started noticing some of the historical sites providing ways for their employees to still keep engaged with their audience. And it's been amazing the response that I've gotten from these organizations. They've taken taken time away from what they're doing to let people know about the resources that they have. There are a variety of resources. You mentioned family fun. Certainly there have been a lot of things that you can do with your kids now that they're home, and that grandparents, if they are even just a little bit tech savvy, if they're isolated from their grandchildren, they can still have that connection with them by sharing some of these online resources. And then, of course, we have students at HCC that are continuing on with projects they have to do. There's also resources out there that are available and appropriate for what they're doing as well. And then if you just wanted to learn something new, wanted a break from the news, wanted something else for your mind to kind of chew on, there's resources for that as well. And I'm trying to bring those ideas out.
What I thought was remarkable, and you kind of touched on this a moment ago, is we've had a lot of good response in the Houston area with the Houston Zoo and the Children's Museum and the Museum of Natural Science. But we talked about during a meeting, hey, let's reach out to the Smithsonian, let's reach out to the national parks and also to the national museums. What's been the reaction from them? Because it seems like everybody's been on board with this.
They have been thrilled as well. The Smithsonian is remarkable. They have got resources that I couldn't have possibly imagined. One that I was really impressed by, they have scattered throughout the week, basically kind of little office hours you can have with curators and conservators and ask them questions, get information back from them in real time. One interview I've got coming up next week is really exciting. The beginning of next week is the 155th anniversary of the assassination of Lincoln. And so Ford's Theater, which is, of course, where Lincoln was assassinated, is going to do an interview with us late in the week. They've been doing virtual tours every day. These organizations are doing remarkable things under very difficult circumstances.
They are, and we're at a point right now where the nation is pretty much at home. The kids are at home, they're taking their classes, but these are fun and educational things that parents can do kind of as a break. But I would imagine on the websites and through these museums, they have programs for instructors and for students as well, so the students and instructors can fit this into their curriculum.
Absolutely. That was something that the Houston Zoo mentioned directly, that they have been working with a number of local school districts to align what they're doing with some of the curriculum that these schools were already teaching. So providing something enriching that is also building in and meshing with what these students are doing already.
You know, a lot of these museums too are going through some tough times, like many Americans, where many people have lost their jobs, especially ones that maybe work for the museums. But you have vital workers that need to be there all the time. So this gives them something to promote the museum, so that when we are back up and running, it's going to give people a taste of what's inside, but also bring them in the future, I would imagine.
Absolutely, absolutely. All of these organizations have emergency funds that you can contribute if you are able to, if you're in a financial position to do that. But all of them have emphasized, even if you aren't, just watching our programming, getting those hits on their website. Um, Other ways, I know that the state parks mentioned, look, one thing we would love everybody to do is, if you're able to, get out into your backyard, garden, think about how you might make your backyard welcoming to wildlife. This is our mission too. It doesn't have to be just money. So there's a lot of ways that you can support these folks that are working hard to bring you programming.
You know, you mentioned talking about Texas Parks and Wildlife, and you spoke with someone there. One thing I noticed from that report, they did say get out in your yard and maybe plant some native flowers or things that are native in our environment to attract wildlife. And one thing I also noticed is, since you taped the report, some things changed with the local or with the state parks. What happened there?
Well, when we taped the interview, she mentioned that some state parks are still open, and here's where you go to get the information about the procedures for getting in. And the morning that I was set to release that story, the governor closed the state parks. And so we had to go back and kind of reorient the story. Unfortunately, some of the state parks were just getting slammed like a holiday weekend, and it was very difficult to keep that social distancing. It was hazardous for the staff that had to maintain that. And so they had to contract that a little bit. But you can still go online. You can still participate in Texas Outdoor Family. They've got great programs going through the entire month. And then the first Saturday in May, they're having a live camp-in. So, pull out your extra blankets, make a little blanket fort in the living room. I may do that, and I don't have any kids.
Well, that sounds like a fun thing. Yeah, even without kids in the house, that sounds like fun. You mentioned about the state parks. That's been kind of a controversial subject recently. State parks have closed. Harris County is closing their parks for just this weekend, so they say. The mayor of Houston has said right now they're going to keep the parks open, but they're asking people to really be mindful of the social distancing, because, as you mentioned, I go to Memorial Park daily, but usually in the morning, and it's okay. But I went there last Sunday. There were people all over the place, and I guess that's concerning to the general public, but as you mentioned, to the workers there as well.
And we're not the only location that's having those issues. One of the groups that I follow on Facebook and on Twitter is Monterey, California. They have some wonderful hiking trails, some wonderful public beaches, and they've also come into this kind of problem, and they've had to contract the services and the availability. So we're not the only ones.
No, it's an issue we're all dealing with right now. And it's kind of challenging because people get cooped up in the house, and you got some kids in the house, and you want to get them outside, get some fresh air. And this is a wonderful time to get out there and exercise. But I guess if you live inside the city of Houston, we've got a wide array of parks really in the city of Houston, from Buffalo Bayou to Memorial. So if you drive by Memorial Park and it's crowded, drive down the street to Buffalo Bayou, or maybe even just take a walk in your neighborhood to get outside.
Absolutely, and there's ways you can exercise without having to go outside. One of the things that I found when I was looking over the Children's Museum is they have some great little workouts for kids that are based around imitating animals, and it's goofy and it's fun, and that would be something that you could do if it was raining outside.
We talked at the top of this show about you defending your thesis and being awarded your master's. Are you going to be teaching? Is that your goal? And are you going to start that soon?
Absolutely. I'm going to be teaching this summer. I'm going to be teaching in summer one a course in Introduction to Mass Media. And that's going to cover all the mass media, from the Gutenberg Bible to esports. In summer 2, I'm going to be teaching a class that's Introduction to Electronic Media, and that's going to be radio, television, and internet. We're going to kind of do a deep dive into those 3.
And I hope you'll be bringing some of your experience from HCCTV and that, maybe some personal stories for those folks to ponder.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, we've got such a wide range of students. We're going to have people that want to be professional communicators, ones that just want to kind of see behind the scenes. I think one thing that this crisis has really highlighted is how much we all rely on media. I mean, it's present from the time we get up to the time we go to bed. We carry it around in our pockets and purses. We let our children be babysat by media. It's very important that all of us understand how the media works.
And things have changed so much since you and I went to school. The basic concepts are there, but it's so different right now. It seemed like when we went to school years ago, everybody wanted to be a TV reporter or an anchor or maybe go work for a TV station. That was it. That's all you wanted to do. Now those jobs are so few. The industry's changed, but really those jobs may be few, but all you need is a cell phone these days and wireless internet or internet connection, and you can start doing your own broadcasts and you can start creating your own media yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we've gone from having, you mentioned there being fewer of those traditional media jobs, but there's more media infused into a lot of other fields. And so no matter what field you get into, you have to be a communicator. You have to be a storyteller. And so no matter if you're wanting to be a reporter, if you're wanting to be in public relations, if you're wanting to be in management, whether you want to be a doctor and you're going to be doing telemedicine, we all need to know how to communicate with each other. These skills, everybody needs to have them.
I'm sure your students are going to be on top of their game. I know the students we have working for us right now at HCCTV. We've got a great crew of young students in there working for us, and they've really taken off during this time. They really have made their own mark because we've kind of told them, look, guys, we want you to create stories and tell your perspectives. You might have to use your cell phone, and they've been very resourceful in doing it.
They are absolutely brilliant. I know that I learn as much from them as they learn from me. Having them in the office with us just gives a brand new perspective. It challenges us to up our game. They're an absolute joy to have around.
Absolutely. Stacee Hawkins, one of our producers at HCCTV. We thank you for being here today and updating everybody. Now, Brainy Break, they can find those on our HCC District Facebook page, also on our YouTube channel, and I'm sure if you find Stacee in social media, she's sharing them as well.
Absolutely.
All right, Stacee, thanks for being here today. Congratulations again on your master's. And we look forward to hearing from you in the future. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on Up to the Minute. I'm Todd Duplantis. This is, starting next week after the long weekend, we're going to go back to the 10 a.m. live feed of Up to the Minute. We were doing this 1 p.m. show as we got through the first few weeks of our online learning to make sure we had all the information we're getting to you. We've got other duties we're looking at, so we'll still be around. We're producing a lot more of our shows that we had been producing at 3100 in our own studios. We'll be doing a lot of those remotely. So next week, join us every morning at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time for Up to the Minute. We will keep you up to date with all of your Houston Community College news and information. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Get out if you can safely. I'm Todd Duplantis, and I'll see you next time.